Hi, Mrs. Girot here. I wanted to teach you how to change the dimensions of your canvas to fit whatever type of design you're making. So if you're making a business card, there's business card dimensions, right? If you are printing on an 8.5 by 11 sheet, you want the dimensions of your canvas to be 8.5 by 11. If you're doing a banner, okay, we're going to be doing a 2 foot by 8 foot banner. We want our dimensions to be 2 by 8. So let me show you how to do that. All right, so when I create a new document, I automatically go into File and Document Properties. I automatically get this template, A4, which is 210 by 297 millimeters. Not that that really means anything to me, right? Because I don't think in millimeters. How about you? I know US letter, I can 8.5 by 11 inches. I know that. And you can kind of scroll down here and you can see that they have some different templates. Like they've got an envelope template. They've got a banner. I'm thinking that this banner right here, though, is probably like an internet banner that goes at the top of a website because it's really thin and long. And some other business cards are in there. So this is good information to have, okay? But usually when you're going to be doing a project for a customer, you need to do the background and find out what dimensions it needs to be. So just Google it or give a phone call if you know where it's going to be printed. You can call the printer and say, what dimensions do I need to make my document for an outdoor banner, for example? What are your standard printing sizes? So I'm just going to type standard outdoor banner sizes, okay? And I come down here and I get some examples. Standard size vinyl banners, horizontal, blue wave printing. I'm just going to go ahead and click on that and assume that most places, most printers are going to have the same standard sizes, right? So we want an 8 foot wide banner. So let's do 8 by 2. Okay, look at $42.97 for an 8 by 2 banner. I'm worried if we only did a 6 by 2 banner, it wouldn't be long enough to put all the text. A 10-foot wide banner would be nice. You could probably fit more text on there. So if you're making your design and 2 by 8 just feels like it's too, like the text is too crunched together. If you can't make it work, you could do 2 by 10. But I'm going to ask you to try to stay in the 2 by 8 category. Let's take a look at what that looks like here. I think this one's going to have our 2-foot sizes. So each one of these banners is 2 feet tall, which is what I'd like you guys to do, 2 feet tall. And here's the one that is 8 foot wide. I think that looks proportionally about right. We're at a pavilion or indoors. We can probably find a nice place to hang an 8 foot by 2 foot banner, correct? 10 foot's getting a little long, so try to keep it 2 by 8 or 8 by 2. So let's go in here and right here where it says custom size, I'm just going to go ahead and change that to inches because it doesn't have feet. If it had feet, we could do it, but it doesn't. So we have to use inches. Okay, and now we're just going to have to do some calculations. We could do these in our heads, right? So 2 times 12, well, what's the width first? The width is going to be 8. 8 times 12. Let's see if you can figure it out. What's 8 times 12 in your head? Yeah, 96. And then the height is 2 feet. So 2 times 12. Do you know that one in your head? Yeah, okay. So 96 by 24 are the dimensions that we're looking at. Okay, so then you can just close that out. And here's your canvas back here. Let's hit the 5. Remember, that's the shortcut to fit your canvas to the window here. So does that look about right? Yes, it does. Let's go ahead. Let's pretend I've already done the part where I vectored and created the logo. So I'm going to go ahead and import the logo first. So I'm going to import this purple one. This is bitmap though, so this is not a logo at this point. It's just gonna slide this up here. Hold down control when you do this to maintain the proportions, right? If you don't, it'll get skewed. All right, so there we go. Now, one of the other things I was recommending in our class today is that you create a border. So I'm going to call this first layer that has our logo on it, right? Links logo. Okay, and then we're gonna lock it, and then we'll create a new layer, and we'll call this the background, or let's call this the border. Okay, and to create the border, you just use your good old friendly rectangle tool, right? And you draw that rectangle this size. Oh, look at me. I've already got my dimensions on my border set up because I'm so sweet. Okay, hold on. If you want to move it, you got to use your move tool, right? Okay, so I kind of got it fitted to the canvas right here. I'm going to go ahead and grab my fill and stroke box over here. Otherwise, it's an object fill and stroke. Okay, and the reason why I already have this border is because I went into fill and I clicked X. Does not have a fill, okay? And then I went into stroke style and I clicked right here. And then I like the wheel. And then I swung my wheel around until I got to the color that I wanted it. And if I wanted, I could use my dropper. So let's slide this over and grab a hold of this dropper here. And I could come over and I could match the color of the actual logo. Bam, isn't that nice? Now they match perfectly. The stroke style is where I got the actual border. So the stroke, remember, is the outline of that rectangle. I don't have a fill, that's why it's clear and you can see the logo. The stroke style though is where, and you have to have it selected, so make sure it's selected, is where you change that width of that border. So when I started, I think it was at about 2 and I couldn't see anything, right? So I've got to go in there and I've got to go, okay, 20. Oh, that's not wide enough. Look, it's not even the size of my page now. So I can see a little bit better that it's not quite fitting, and I can stretch it out a little bit so it reaches to the edges. And that was not thick enough. 30's not quite where I want it, maybe 40. Okay. So however wide you want to make your banner, remember you can hit 5. Okay. Hey, that actually looks pretty professional. And so that's cool because when you go to do your text, you can also match the color of your text using the dropper as well. So have fun with this project. Remember, you need to create a new layer for your text, right? So after you get your border on there, lock it, okay? And then I also ask you to create a background layer. So add another layer. Call that background, okay? Maybe we're not going to print it with the background, but just in case, or if there was a color that you wanted to make the background, you definitely want to do that in a separate layer because let's say for the background layer, that's going to be underneath. So I'm going to lower it. And if you have technical difficulties like me and your lowering buttons aren't working for you, you can just go over to layer, make sure it's selected and just say lower layer. So I've just essentially moved, excuse me, my background layer underneath the border, but I also need it under the links because I've got to be able to see my links. So I just need to send that all the way down to the bottom. Layer to bottom. Okay, so let's say I'm just gonna hide everything else for now, and I'm gonna create my background using a rectangle. And just gonna grab and drag my rectangle. Now notice that it's doing the exact same thing as when I created my border. That's because whatever fill and stroke I have set over here, it remembers that. So I just need to go to fill and I need to click here. Okay, so now look, it's got a fill, and do I want the, and you've got your fill and stroker also down here, and you can change your fill. So let's just say I got really wild and wacky and I decided that I wanted to make my background gray. just to create a little bit of contrast for my logo. And there's different color grays I can play around with here. Okay, I also need to make sure I don't have a stroke on this because this is just background. I don't want my border and my background the same layer because I want to be able to have a border without a background if I choose to as the customer. So when I click on that X, you notice that the border disappears. I might have to drag this out a little bit to make sure it's covering the whole banner. Okay, and now let's go back to our layers. And let's bring back the links logo. Uh-oh. Another good example here of why it's important to make sure that you do create a background for your logo on a separate layer, because obviously if I choose to use a banner that's a different color, I'm going to want just the logo and not the background. Okay, so this is really good information that we're getting out of this. So make sure that when you do your logo, you make a background color for it, yes, but make sure your background layer is separate so that if I don't want the background for this example right here, because it's totally ruining my design with this gray, that you don't have to have the background on there. It could just be the links without. Okay, so then we've also got the border now. And so we don't want a logo on a white background on a gray background, right? Okay, so hopefully you're getting that. I'm sorry, I know this video is running over, but all these little details hopefully will help to make sure that you know what you're doing for your design. So here's the text tool right here. Go onto YouTube and just search up text in Inkscape. There's all kinds of cool designs that you can do for your text and incorporate the You Matter theme for the year and just make it sharp and professional. Thank you so much.